I think what we're seeing is we're evolving from a world of specialists where information came from the dark rooms, or you have to know the right person that's got access to the information so you get to what really is going on, to a world where information is expected to be available, especially with new generations. I think it's particularly true where you go to the web today and you know you can look at the performance of your competition very easily. So it is expected that as new generations are coming in the workforce, that they will get access to information easily.
Yeah, it's that search engine attitude. I feel I can go on the internet and I can ask a query, a simple question, I can get the information I want. And I think the new knowledge workers that are entering the workplace are coming in kind of emboldened by that and used to being able to have information at their fingertips. And so their expectations are different than knowledge workers of the past, for sure. I think the other thing that's evolved a lot is BI has gone from just reports, how did we do last month, to how are we going to do this month. And that performance management space is certainly an area that's growing. And I know that you have a passion for it because you recently published a book. And I believe Drive Business Performance is the title. And why don't you tell us a little about that? And maybe afterwards you can maybe share a success story or some examples of best practices.
As you said, I have been in the business intelligence space my entire career, so I've been watching it for a while. I'm very passionate about the space because I think particularly now it's going through an interesting phase, both from a customer standpoint. Business intelligence now is identified as a top priority for CIOs. So it's important for customers. I think they're realizing the strategic value of business intelligence. I think vendors also are consolidating, so a few options in the market. And when I started working on the book, what we realized is there are really two types of paths to take a look at when you're deploying business intelligence or performance management initiatives. There's the technical path. You can go out and buy a book that's going to tell you everything about dashboards and KPIs and so forth. Typically, business managers read that and they read the first few pages, give it to the IT organization, and they drop that, and 9 months later they still don't have what they want. The other approach is the more academic, theoretical approach where you get great examples of companies that do this well, but it's almost frustrating as a business manager because you don't have a particular framework that you can follow. So in the book, what we try to do is give you those great examples, and definitely we traveled over 20 countries and interviewed hundreds of companies. We tell the stories of about 15 of those in there, and what we tell you is we explain to you the 6 stages of the model leading up to culture of performance, where everybody's executing. It's the objective of most of the organizations out there, but then we map specific capabilities you need to go out and deploy. We have in the book a test that you can take to assess yourself, which often is used by companies that are trying to break the barrier between business and IT, and let's sit down and assess where we think we are, which is the number one problem that a lot of the companies out there can't solve. So hopefully the book helps them do that. There are a ton of best practices in the book, and I don't know how much time we have today, but I could tell you great stories that we're finding out for companies like Expedia, Energizer, Premier Bank.
Share one of your favorites.
My favorite one, I think, is this idea of the truth. Often in the BI space, we talk about go out and get the great data, get the right numbers, and you'll be fine. And what we're finding out is, well, there are two things. One, it's not just the numbers, it's how we understand the number. And we talk about this concept of language of performance. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm a French person, so as I was learning English, I was told you can learn 8,000 words, and when you do that, you can speak the language. Actually, that's not true. If you don't understand the context of how these words are being used, then you're not going to be able to speak the language. So an expression like break a leg, for instance, can mean multiple things. And I think in the corporate environment, we focus a lot on the words and the data, get that number specifically, but we might not spend enough time on what that number means across departments, across marketing and finance. I think the stat out there is companies have up to 400 different definitions of the term customer.
Yeah, exactly.
So getting agreement on that and then branding that number, that definition, so that it's pervasive across the organization is actually a marketing job. Often, as a finance person or an IT person, you don't realize that you have to market that constantly. And in the book, we talk about great things that companies like Siemens or Expedia are doing to make sure that it's top of mind for everybody inside the organization. So when you think about this concept of performance management and pervasive BI, it's not just a technology issue, it's how you market that and make sure it's top of mind for everybody in the organization, and that's the job by itself.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important. I'm glad to hear that you attacked it the way you did. With multiple stages are important, but I think it's extra good if you've got definitions about here's what you need to have in place, here's where your culture needs to be, here's where you have to be in number 2 to move to number 3. And that type of methodology, I think, goes beyond academics and best practices. And so you guys are tying some good real-world experience in there as well.
We're very happy with the response. I think very much like what you said, operationalizing the issue around strategy is a big one. I think we've spent a lot of time telling companies and how they can come up with a great strategy. Now it really is time to tell them how they're going to execute on it. I think the stats in the market, I think it's a Barron's report, saying that 80% of companies are not able to execute on their own strategy, being able to find the results that are expected. So I think we can help, and definitely the book is not the answer to everything, but it is an answer, and we've been very lucky. It's been in market for 90 days now. It's been received very well.
Fantastic. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time out of the busy schedules around here today to spend a few minutes with us. It's been great having you.
Thank you.